Yo, what's good, y'all? This is your boy Storm Sage coming to you with, that's right, the patch notes for Season 4 have come out. Season 4 for Diablo is called Loot Reborn, and we will have the May 14th. Probably standard release date. Release time will be around that 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time window. I'll update more on my TikToks once we know more, but let's go ahead and jump right into it because the patch notes are massive. They had the campfire chat today. Real quick, we're going to talk about Season 4 real quick because I know you guys are dying to hear my opinion, and I knew it. I knew this was going to be just a regular old season with the season of the loot, and that was it. The seasonal updates, that's it. That's all that we're getting for this season, with some, I guess, added recipes via the Iron Wolves. Okay. First of all, that's copyright. Okay, copyright infringement on Destiny 2. Okay. Season of the Wolves, the Iron Lords. We know that. I just want to make sure we get that out the way. But in all seriousness, this is very, very upsetting for me. I wanted something else. I wanted another layer to the season. But as we go through some of these changes and some of these updates, you're going to be seeing that they are really doubling down on expanding the ease of play, and also just in general the game, except for the very high tiers, which is the pit. Everything else is kind of being scaled to being easier and quicker to get you to that trajectory, to that level 100. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, these are updates from the PTR realm, and the first feature update: there is no longer a chance for masterworking to fail. So that's another way of they're making things easier. The masterwork animation, now this wasn't a big thing from the PTR. The animation was, every time you clicked on it, there was an animation you had to go through. It just gets annoying after a while. So it has been removed for non-milestone ranks, 1 to 3, 5 to 7, and etc. So as long as you're not hitting that 4, 8, 12 milestone, you'll get an animation just to show, hey, you've reached that level 4 milestone. You reached that level 8 milestone. You've reached that level 12 milestone. Everything in between, it's just gonna bump it up, which is awesome. Awesome. The Timbering result screen now shows the result affix, its role, and its affix range. This was another, big thing. We wanted to make sure these things get updated. Get an idea of what the affix on the tempering. The tempering is where you can take 2. There's going to be about, I believe there's 6 categories, each 2 categories per armor slot. So chest, arms, and helmet, and weapons. So you'll be able to add up to 2 tempering of those particular slots. And when you're rolling for those, the result affix, it's rolling, all the ranges on it and everything else, you'll be able to see it now. So you understand where you fell, how good your roll was, and how bad your roll was. Various UI improvements for the tempering and masterworking experiences. You're going to be in these boxes, these little boxes on your screen a lot in the end game for especially for masterworking. A visual indication has been, added multiple tiers of masterworking material caches that transmute far more materials than were previously available. Again, the materials, once you masterwork an item, if you didn't hit all of the affixes that you wanted on that particular item, you can reset it and go back to the beginning levels. And so the amount of materials that needed to be switched or changed from the higher tier materials to the lower tier materials have been, lessened, because there's a lot of buttons, a lot of, you're just in menus. You were in the PTR, you were in menus a lot. So they're trying to lessen that. A visual indication has been added to the imprint UI, which indicates which legendary affixes are currently equipped. You can now search the term equip or equipped within the Codex of Power to list currently equipped affixes. This is amazing. So this is a nice little change, just a little quality of life QOLs, where you could just type in that equip, and it tells you exactly what you have already equipped on your person, on your character. We've added an inventory icon to indicate items that have at least 1 greater affix. When items with greater affixes drop in game, they will also have the same icon to indicate they possess a greater affix. So this is what I was showing in my last video, that little star showing us a greater affix. They've added more indicators for you guys so that you can know, hey, this is a greater affix. This is a very high tier item. I want to jump in. Let's see what affix I got, how much it is, etc. Okay. So they're going to talk about the Helltide in the Pit. The party member that spends the rune shards to open the pit gets 100% of the masterworking materials. The rest of the party receives half the amount. So, for example, I play with my boy Kay, and if me and Kay are going and doing pits together, we gotta, you just want to alternate between each of you with your pit rune shards. That's how you would work it. If you're in a group of 3, just rotate between the 3, and eventually everyone would get the same amount of loot. That's how you're gonna have to work it when you're in a group. Artillery and blastblade shrines no longer spawn in the pit. Pretty strong. Hellborn spawn chance at Helltide zones have been increased. Perfect. Just a more chance of getting that Hellborn spawn. You can get more of those materials. Baneful Heart drop rate has been adjusted to be more consistent. I think I got 1 Baneful Heart while I was in the PTR. Overall loot quality from the Blood Maiden has been improved. Loot quality has also been improved with players that contribute materials to summon the Blood Maiden as a contribution bonus reward. So that just means that when you're summoning the Blood Maiden, which is the new kind of like a pinnacle boss within Helltide, once you're summoning that, getting your Baneful Hearts, getting all of those acquired, and then summoning this Blood Maiden, she has a chance to drop a lot of high tier loot. It's a great way to infuse reasonings other than materials, and within the Helltide. Doomsayer variants, which used to drop a chest of doomsaying on defeat, will now drop the contents of a doomsaying chest on death with no additional cinders costs. So you destroy the doomsayer variants and you'll just get the loot. You don't get a chest that you have to use cinders on. Balance adjustments. Many tempering affixes that were either outperforming or underperforming have been adjusted to meet intended power levels. The tempering affix or maximum size increase for various skills and effects, just as Dust Devils or Bone Spirit is now capped at 100%. So basically, it was getting wild. I know most of y'all have seen the photos and stuff like that, but it was getting outlandish. The size of these things, they were covering up whole screens. You could only imagine when there's more 5 to 10 barbarians out there with Dust Devils rolling over, you won't even be able to see where you're going. So they changed that aspect of it, which is awesome. And so full details, I'm including legendary aspects in the Codex of Power. Item affixes, greater affixes, tempering masterwork. Please read our season 4 blog here. Here are some of the major items coming with itemization updates. All right, let's look through this. Extracting that aspect now upgrades it to the Codex of Power. All aspects now exist in the Codex of Power. Various item affixes have been updated and the overall pool of affixes have been condensed. Additionally, greater affixes have been introduced. Appearing only on ancestral, legendary, and unique items, these are more powerful, 1.5 times versions of normal affixes. Each time an affix has a chance to be a greater affix in World Till 4. New tempering and masterworking systems allow deeper customization of items and access to new affixes. And legendary items dropped from enemy level 95 plus are always 925 item power. Great big change. Unique item can now drop earlier in the game. World Tier 3 have World Tier 1 and we're non-sacred, and then World Tier 4 can now drop sacred in World Tier 3. So they just basically bump down the tiers a little bit. And here is a chain. Minimum levels required to equip sacred and ancestral items have been reduced. Sacred is now 35 and ancestral is now 55. So that means 5. I think it's 5 for each of those. I feel like sacred was later though. I feel like it was a higher tiered, but basically you're going to be more powerful earlier on in the game, which is going to lend to that easier curve getting to that level 100 and getting the end game. They really want you to, a lot of these changes are to get you to level 100 and get you into those end game systems as quick as possible. And the pit and everything else, and understanding the masterwork systems. Looks like game updates. I'm not going to go over all of this. There's a lot. So accessibility, new character highlights, Helltide Reborn. Helltides, they're a lot more density, a lot more events happen. You have a meter that you can build up and you'll have more and more enemies and packs coming to you. I've played a little bit of Helltide in the PTR. It was nice to have a little bit more variety and felt like when you're in there, the environment is against you, not just I'm just running through fighting people. The environment is against you as well. New items. So let's go ahead and check here. Unique items. Tyrael's Might, unique chest armor. While at full life, your skills unleash a divine barrage, dealing damage. So this is one of the new ones coming out. Basically, it gives you that, man, I can't think of the name of it, but where if you know, whenever you do an ability, it shoots these like holy swords out in a frontal cone or in a circle. It's a shrine ability, but basically it gives you that shrine ability on your chest armor, which is nice. Yin's Blessing. Casting a skill has a 40 to 60% chance to cast a non-mobility, non-ultimate skill that's currently on cooldown. This effect can only occur once every 8 to 12 seconds. Wow. This is that Yin's Blessing. So Yin's Blessing is, that's really nice. Thinking about my druids out there, we have kind of a built-in cooldown refresher in most of our abilities. So this could be big for druid. Just, you know, it's gonna, I think that's gonna really be big. So keep an eye out once we're going through druid. Legendary aspects. Aspect of Frosty Strides. While below 45 to 60% life, evade freezes close enemies for cold damage and applies vulnerable to them for 3 seconds. Aspect of Concussive Strikes. Damaging an enemy has up to a 20% chance to daze them. Not a lot of daze in the game, but it looks like they are trying to add some more daze effects in to the game. You deal 5 to 20% increased damage to daze enemies, so that's big. Barbarian unique items. Okay, these are just legendary aspects. These are all general. Now we're going to Barbarian. I'm not going to get too much into Barbarian. I am going to slowly scroll down here. So if you are a Barbarian player, you want to look at assists, definitely jump in here and take a look. Looks like Twin Strikes, Aspect of Fierce Winds, and Ariat's Bearing are all getting changes. But you know, while we're here, Druid and Sorcerer are the main classes I play. Let's jump into it. Unique items for Druid. Earthbreaker, unique ring. Landslide causes the ground to erupt erupt into tectonic spikes, which continue to do 0.6 to 0.9 damage over 2 seconds. Casting landslide in this area has a 20 to 30% chance to cause additional landslide flares to spawn within. Seems like landslide's going to be one of those abilities that you're going to want to spec into. Basically, you cast landslide. If you have a cooldown, lower cooldown on landslide, you get landslide again. You can keep hitting landslide over and over and keep getting these pillars to spawn in an area. So that's going to be pretty strong werebear ability, I believe. Wild Heart Hunger. These are boots. Boots are always interesting because there's not too much of options. You want speed, but movement speed, but there's not too many options for the boots. When you shapeshift into a werewolf or a werebear, you gain Wild Heart for 5 seconds. Wild Heart grants you 1 to 1.5% increased damage with shapeshifting skills every 2 seconds, stacking 20 times. Whoa, it just gave, so those boots, everybody's gonna want those boots, okay? Those boots are gonna be crazy because you gotta think about it. There's not a lot of boots you gotta wear. There's not a lot of boots you gotta wear, especially with the armor changes, everything. These is just this flat damage to druids wearing these boots. But you have to be doing shape shifting skills, and this is every 2 seconds, stacking every 20 times. So this gives a little bit of extra oomph to people who want to switch between werebear, werewolf, and the regular druid forms. Just kind of switching between those three off and on. And if you pair, and you can't wear these boots though with these yins, the new yins. You can't stack those two. Where is it? Yin's Blessing. I was gonna say you can stack those two together, and then there goes your cooldowns, but you can't stack that. Obviously, they're both boots. Okay, let's keep moving on. Aspect of Fevered Mauling. When you hit a least, these are aspects. You can apply these to any of your gear. Well, I don't know. We don't know yet. What gear can it be applied on? Rings, obviously, and necklace. Usually, you can. When you hit at least one enemy with Maul, okay, which is the werebear standard attack. Increases attack speed by 1% to 2.5%. And you gain 1% to 3% damage reduction for 5 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Okay, so this is big. This is tanky bear type of stuff. And it's just going to mean that in your werebear stance, if you decide to stay in the werebear stance and have this aspect on, not only are you going to be getting up to, looks like 15% damage reduction, but you also will be getting attack speed updated for up to, looks like close to 11%. So that's amazing. Necro changes, looks like unique items, Ebon Piercers are being added, Cruar's Embrace, Aphotic Aspect. For the rogue, we got Scoundrel's Kiss, we got Saboteur's, looks like they updated it for the unique ring. Scoundrel's Kiss projectile pattern is now more predictable, which is nice. Saboteur's Signet, and Aspect of High Velocity is the legendary aspect. Sorcerer, let's check it out. Fractured Winter Glass. Casting Frozen Orb has a 35 to 50% chance to spawn a random congregation when it explodes. Your congregation has up to a 50 to 70% chance to launch a frozen orb at nearby enemies. So they nerfed this. The PTR was pretty, it was popping, and it was very much every cast. So this is bringing it down a little bit. Your lucky hit is you're still gonna get majority frozen orbs. It's just not gonna be automatic. 1700 was basically like every single one, and it did crazy damage. Developer's note here says extra explosions from the aspect of frozen orbit do not trigger this effect, as the unique calls out casting. This unintended interaction was fixed since the PTR. Flameweaver, unique gloves. Casting fireball through your firewall causes it to split into 4 bolts, each dealing 80 to 100% more damage. Flameweaver now splits fireballs to 3 instead of 4, and damage buff to 30 to 70% from 10 to 30. So this is you guys want to be a fire builds for sorcerers. This looks strong. I see the couple. So they're giving you some specific through the battle pass, not the battle pass, the seasonal journey. They're giving you builds, so armor, aspects specifically to lend into specific builds. And they're showing off the flame one, and they did some pictures on the developer update today, and they look pretty sweet. So we're gonna hopefully be seeing some different types of, hopefully we'll be seeing lightning sorcerers out there, obviously me, fire sorcerers, as well as ice sorcerers. Let's hopefully we see different people doing different things. Aspect of Tenuous Destruction, deal 25 to 40% increased damage while you have no defensive skills on your action bar. So this is hilarious. So as you well know, Barbarian and Sorcerer are known. I think it's the shout Barians, and then basically having all of the defensive skills, the ice, the fire, and the lightning. So this is interesting because you can't have any of those defensive skills on, but it will increase your damage by 40% just off rip if you don't have any. So it's a high risk, high reward type of build. And that's exactly what we're going to be going. Don't you worry about that. Hopefully the lightning movement skill is not considered defensive. I know it's in that circular pattern, but we'll see. We'll see how it works. Flamethrower's aspect. Incinerate splits into 3 beams, each dealing 70 to 80% of normal damage. That might be what we saw, that 3 beam one into the photo. But that flamethrower's aspect with those Flameweaver, and you're gonna be seeing I feel like you're gonna be seeing a lot of that this upcoming season. All right, balance updates. Here's unique items. Banished Lord's Talisman. This is something that if you're a werebear pulverized build, is something you would add to your builds for sure. Updated visuals and sounds indicate that your next core skill will overpower. This is interesting because I tried to use this item, and for some abilities it would not proc. It wouldn't go through. I don't know why, but it wouldn't go through. Critical strike overpower damage reduced from 80 to 20% to 20 to 60%. Jesus, that's a major nerf. Resources needed for guaranteed overpower reduced from 300 to 275. That's a nerf. That's a pretty big nerf here on the critical strike overpower damage. I wonder if they've tweaked overpower to be a little stronger, and so they're basing that that damage scaler a little lower. We'll see. Tibalt's Will. Woo, they hitting our defenses. Damage increase while unstoppable reduce from 20 to 40% to 10 to 20, so a 50% nerf. Damage increase persists for 1 second longer after being unstoppable. So it gives you a little bit more. It's more of a offensive option now, not just, it was an all-around great item to have. Not only did it give you really great defense, I mean all around, you know, offense on both sides. It lasts a little longer, but you're not going to get that big of a buff from using Tibalt's Will. People are still going to use it though. 10 to 20% is still 10 to 20%. Razor Plate. So outside of lightning builds, y'all, I really want to do a Thorns build. A Werebear Thorns build just sounds amazing to me. Sounds like that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing and it's supposed to be out there, but there's no way to really like ramp up Thorns damage too much. Razor Plate has been updated to function within the new masterworking system. Awesome. Now has 4 Thorns affixes instead of no affixes. Thank you. Thank you. New unique power. Thorns has a 10% chance to deal 100 to 150% increased damage. So that's amazing. So that basically just means that as you're getting hit, there's going to be a higher chance for them to proc that 100, to 150% increased damage on your Thorns hits. We'll have to see with the new masterworking system if we can make a high tier Thorns build. Not sure. We'll see. Disobedience is a legendary aspect that a lot of people use for defenses. Armor stacks no longer fall off independently. They now refresh or reset at the same time. Armor gain changed to 25 to 40%. So they changed armor as well. They discussed that in the developer update that they did change armor. Armor is going to scale up to level 100 only now. So I think it was 9,000. It was around 9,320. Don't quote me on that exact number, but I'll try to figure it out and put it right up here somewhere for you guys. But basically you hit that number and you're done. You don't have to worry about that for any of the in-game content. You are done on armor. They've stopped the scaling there. Before it would scale based on level. So if you got to level 150, it would continue to scale up to like 13,000 armor you would need, etc. 9,320, you hit it, you figure out your gear to hit that and you're good. So just keep that in mind for in-game. Once you get to that armor cap, you do not have to worry about that. And then you just have to worry about resistances. Assimilation. Previous, you have 8% increased dodge chance versus enemies affected by damage over time effects. When you dodge, you gain 5 to 10 of your primary resource. Now you have 8% increased dodge chance. When you dodge, fortify for 5 to 10% of your maximum life. That's pretty nice. That's probably a good rogue there that has some fortify. Now, Fortify also got buff. I don't know if that's going to be in here, but Fortify got buff. So Fortify, it just means that they've raising the scaling for Fortify from 10% to 15%. So you're going to get a little bit more out of being fortified for damage reduction. So that's important for classes that offer that. Druid, this is a lot of these changes they made Druid just a little bit more tanky. I was finding it hard to stay alive, y'all. Speccing into damage and staying alive in some of this in-game content on the PTR. 5% isn't a lot, but it's something, right? It's something. All right. Let's see. Of Retribution, chance to stun increased from 8% to 10%. Now increases damage to stun and knock down enemies. Of Intercom, previous, deal 5 to 10% increased damage for each second you stand still, up to 40%. This was big for all of my fellow Thunder Storm Druid players out there. You know that of Intercom is a great buff for us because literally when it's a channeled skill, you're standing still, and so this does boost up your damages pretty good. Now deal 5 to 10% increased damage. Triple this bonus after standing still for 3 seconds. So I don't know what that's going to change, right? So it's a little less DPS overall, right? But the second you sail, it would scale up to 10 for 4. So now you're going to hit that 30% increased damage if you haven't maxed out a maxed out aspect for 30% extra damage. Triple this bonus after standing still for 3 seconds. So yeah, It's less you have to stand still while casting the damage and more you have to stand still in general, and then it will refresh and then you can use it. We'll see what the damage is looking like. I almost want to do a quick test. Maybe I'll jump in before the changes, put this on and see what my numbers look like, and then test it afterwards. Of the crowded save, previous, you heal 4 life per second for each close enemy, up to 4 to 605. This was a Druid item. I remember using this sometimes. It's good for early game, not good for late game. Now you have 8% increased dodge chance. Successful dodges restore 5 to 20% of your maximum life. So this is, you know, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm not too sure. There's a couple of dodge options for Druid. I'm not too big on it, but they seem to want you to have increased dodge chance. And then when you do dodge, you do get a good amount of your life back, especially if you have the higher your life, the more that percentage matters. Bold Chieftains, now usable by both Barbarians and Druids, and Needle Flare now also applies Thorns and Necromancer minions. Hectic Aspect, cooldown reduction reduced from 2 to 4 to 1 to 2. All right. Okay, let's look. Oh, the miscellaneous. Necro, Barbarian, Druid, and Sorcerer companions now receive 100% of the player's attributes. So this is the ones that the information that you guys have already heard about. So everybody's companions are a lot stronger now. They share your attributes. Skill tags have been updated everywhere to allow more aspects and other effects to affect more skills and abilities. Example, applicable shout skills for Druid and Barbarian are now tagged as shouts. So for example, it was the Wolf's, I want to say Wolf's Howl. Don't, I think that's the name of the ability, but that is now a shout skill. So it's labeled as shout. So if you get something with shout on it, it also, before that, it was, even though it was technically, I mean, it's a howl, right? It's a shout. It wasn't technically a shout skill. That was specific to a class. Now it's just specific to a type of ability. New chain tag for abilities like Chain Lightning and Rabies. New mobility tag for abilities that move and or teleport the player, such as Caltrops or Teleport. More skills are now tagged as core skills, such as sorcery mastery skills and other skills which use resources like Bone Spirit. So basically they are attaching the core skill to resource, I believe, resources. If it uses resources, it is a core skill equivalent. That means more abilities are going to be able to take advantage from, you know, core skill percentage up, you know, core damage 50%, etc. So this will open up a couple more builds for a couple more things. The blanket changes to some of these skills and abilities and how they're moving is nice, but I want to see more direct, integral changes. It's like they've created a sandbox of abilities and things, and then they're like, all right, let's just open it up and let them figure out these things, other than people there going, okay, this combo. Like Last Epoch, they they delve deep into their game systems and they know exactly what kind of builds, and then they, you know, but I wonder if these guys even know what combinations are available to us, the player, in order to create specific interactions, skills, etc. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they've already seen some things, but you know it's going to get crazy once the season comes out. Additionally, various actions update account for these changes. Here it goes. Damage reduction granted by Fortify has been increased from 10% to 15%. Cooldown reduction is now capped at 75%. Physical damage calculation against damage reduction now caps at level 100. That's what we were talking about with the armor. The maximum evade charge of the fix has been increased from 2 to 3. The attacks reduce evades cooldown effects have been increased from 0.8 to 1.5 seconds. The evade grants movement speed effects have been increased from 50% to 125%. All resistances from amulets have been increased from 19% to 25%. Nice little 25 is just a better number to work with. Single element resistance on rings have been increased from 8% to 10%. We like whole numbers. All right, here's some general stuff for Barbarian skills information. Again, what I can tell you though, because I did look through this a little bit already, they are nerfing Hoda. Hammer of the Ancients is getting nerfed. I think they're changing it. Yeah, I think it's based off of crit now. So there is a cap to it. I think before it was like Fury generated. So all you barbarians who have been just one tapping in game things, it is time to play the game a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying you didn't have to before, but it's time to play the game just a little bit more. I'm sure there'll be something else broken. Like Dust Devils looks pretty broken, and they're pretty much giving all barbarians Dust Devils for free for doing the seasonal content. So you're going to be seeing a lot of dust kicked up everywhere. Get used to it. All right. And that is the Barbarian had a lot of changes, so just keep that in mind. You Barbarians, jump in here. I'm gonna have a link down below to this specific site, so jump in here, click on it, jump in here, and look to your heart's content and get ready. There's a lot of stuff. All right, Druids, you already know what it is. If you use the if you went ahead and jumped to this point of the video because that's all you care about is Druid, welcome my fellow Druids. Sage, the pack leader, is here. Let's go ahead and jump in and see what we can do, see what kind of lightning builds, updates, changes they made, because you know that's what we doing first. Spirit boons, pack leader, cooldown reset chance increased from 20% to 25%. This is great for the minion builds. Basically, it is the spirit boon where you can reset your cooldowns. It happens pretty often already, so this is just going to make it happen even more. You're going to have all those up. The issue with this is that those abilities are like the dog ability and everything else is super cumbersome. It should just auto cast it is what I want the change to be. Giving me the cooldown is cool, but there's probably 5 to 10 better things I can be doing with my time than hitting the button for the dogs to bite one target. Seriously, it needs to just auto do it, and that will be so much better. So hopefully they change that one day. Energize, spirit restoration increased from 10 to 20. Amazing. This helps with spirit. Spirit is one of the hardest things to like deal with as a druid. So this is great. Masochistic, critical strike healing increased from 3 to 5. Awesome. Just makes it easier to get your heals. I think they really want Druid to be more of a reduction heal guy, with abilities, healing with your abilities. They have so many options within the spirit boons and stuff to do that. This just helps with that. It's only 2%, but 2% is, when we're looking at health and how high health can get, it's a good amount. Wariness, reduced damage from elites increased from 10% to 15%. So again, this is interesting because everyone uses it anyway. So I almost wish they would have made it 8%, nerf it. So more people would use something else other than this. This is the stock one you go with. Skills, claw, damage increased by 10%. Nice. This is good for our crone build for stacking. It's just claws is just nice. It's going to be something that it's going to have increased damage. Enhanced claw, attack speed increased from 15% to 20%. So you'll be able to claw faster. Maul, which is the bear variant, same, increased by 10%. And we saw above there's an aspect to really lean into the bear maul as well. And Fortify increased from 5 to 8, 3% buff. Raging Pulverize, stun duration increased from 2 to 3 seconds. That's nice. Shred, we use Shred a lot to get around. Movement's a good movement skill. Damage increase, nice. Enhanced Shred, healing increase. So I want you to heal a little bit more with the ability. Debilitating Roar, now a shot skill. Wolves, now gain Unstoppable when the skill is cast. That's pretty cool. Health increased by 200% and respawn reduced from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. So one of the big takeaways is that wolves die too fast in later games. And so this is just to give them a little bit extra survivability. Will it work? We'll see. We'll still interesting to see how it works. Hurricane, damage increased from 134% to 187%. So Hurricane does damage now. Remember, they've changed it. This can count as a core skill now. I think Hurricane. Does Hurricane cause resource? I'm not too sure. So we'll have to see. But if it's labeled as a core skill, that means you can actually spec in the Hurricane. Remember, it increases damage, and it there's like a defensive node you can check, and you do less damage reduction and whiff, and it's just, again, awesome. Petrify, Prime Petrify. Previous, Petrify's effect durations are increased by 1 second. Yeah, that was kind of whatever. There was a lot of, and they probably changed this because they saw a lot of people wasn't even choosing the nodes. They were just choosing the ultimate, using it for the CC, but they weren't choosing the nodes after it. Now, Petrify grants 50 spirit when cast, and the effect duration are increased by 1 second. Nice. Just a little bit of extra nudge to say, hey, I know spirit's difficult for you guys, for you druids. Now use this node, you get 50 spirit automatically when you use this. So you can go back into rotations, get back into your druid rotations, whatever they may be. Supreme Petrify, killing an enemy affected by Petrify grants 25 spirit. Now killing an enemy affected by Petrify reduces its cooldown by 1 second. Hitting a boss with Petrify reduces the cooldown by 10 seconds. So they really want you to chain Petrify. I'm hoping for some storm, you know what I'm saying, some storm buffs. Let's see what they got. Lacerate. Damage increased by 22%. This needed it. So I tried lacerating the PTR. I tried to run it, and the damage was awful. It was pretty bad. So they really needed it, and that's a good little buff. It's about a 1/4, like a fourth buff there. Prime Lacerate. Previous, Lacerate hits heal for 3% maximum life, doubled on critical strikes. Lacerate hits heal for 3% max life, doubled on critical strikes. The first critical strike is guaranteed and deals 100% increased damage. So there you go. So now it guarantees a crit on activation. Amazing. And you still want to, it's definitely a crit centric. You want to build crit on this. And then you have the bottom, like the pinnacle passive on the bottom, where every 6th werewolf hit, is critical, like an increased critical strike damage attack. And so just imagine you get your 6/1 and it procs the same time as, so it's nice. It's nice. Supreme Lacerate. Lacerate's initial strike is guaranteed to critically strike and deals 100% increased damage. So they basically combined one in and they added another. Whenever Lacerate critically strikes, you deal 4% increased damage for 10 seconds, up to 40%. Okay, up to 40%. So the thing about Lacerate is that it does a animation in which it's repeatedly hitting something. There's no big, not yet that we know of with tempering and those recipes, but I want to see like a full screen Lacerate where it's just like you're just all over the place. So we'll see if that's possible. Passives, Call of the Wild, damage increased from 10% to 12%, very small. Quick Shift. Previous, when a shapeshifting skill transforms you into a different form, it deals 7% increased damage. When shapeshifting into a new animal form, you deal 1% increased damage for 3 seconds, up to 6%. So just a little bit less of a initial burst and more of a ramping up damage type with quick shift. So there's that. Heightened senses upon shapeshifting into a werebear or werewolf, gain 4% damage reduction against elites. Everyone was going this, so let's see what they do. When shapeshifting into an animal form, werebear grants 2% damage reduction, and werewolf grants 2% movement speed, each for 6 seconds. Bonuses are doubled while both are active. Okay, so as long as you're shapeshifting between werebear and werewolf, you'll get speed and damage reduction. They'll be doubled, so you get 4%, and then that's it. That's not great. The damage reduction is fine, but the movement speed is like whatever. Clarity. Previous, gain 2 spirit when transforming into human form. Now, after casting a companion skill, your next core or wrath skills damage and critical strike chance are increased by 5% up to 15%. That's pretty good. Clarity. Previous, gain 2 spirit when transforming into human form. After casting a companion skill, this is big. Okay, this is actually big because Clarity had no use before. No one ever got it. No one ever used it. This is big. Gain 2 spirit when transforming into human form. Now it's after casting a companion skill. Your next core or wrath skills damage and critical strike chance are increased by 5% up to 15%. That's big. That's big. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. That's nice. That just means that they want you to weave in companion skills in between your core skills or wraith skills, whatever you're utilizing. You know, throwing a dog, you know, a dog pounds. I guess this is a reason to use it, but this is also more of a reason to auto cast these companion skills. Put them on auto cast. I will die on that hill. Digitigrade gate movement speed increased from 3% to 4%. Legendary aspects of the changeling's debt, whatever that means. Damaging a poison enemy with a werebear skill will instantly deal 120 to 124% of the poisoning damage and consume the poisoning. Now you deal 25 to 40% increased damage while hitting a poison enemy as a werebear or a crowd control enemy as a werewolf. So this applies to both werebear and werewolf forms now, and just extra damage. This is really good. This is actually really good because before there was no, we really weren't using this at all, but you get this legendary aspect. And I can see a build now with a couple of these aspects, a couple of these changes, a couple of things you can do that are going to outweigh stacking companions and getting that 80% buff on your core skills, etc., of extra damage. We'll see. We'll see. You might be able to actually come up higher if you have the right legendary aspects in the right spots. We'll see if that's possible. But that double, because you 80% now. You hit them with the vines. You do there's one of the abilities where anything you hit gets poisoned. You get this on a weapon, and now you're at 80% increased damage just from the weaponry, and you don't have to use another aspect for additional companions. You don't have to do any of that. So very interesting. That's a huge aspect for our to double up on a weapon. Let's keep going. Of the unsatiated, after killing an enemy with shred, your next werewolf skill generates 25 to 30% more spirit and deals 25 to 32% increased damage. That's what it was before. Now, after killing an enemy with shred, you gain 20 spirit. Nice. When I was running the shred build in the PTR, spirit was a problem. Your werewolf skills deal 10 to 25% increased damage when cast above 50%. So, I'm sorry, cast above 50 spirit. So keeping your spirit up higher and higher will give your werewolf skills more and more damage. So this goes for any werewolf skill, by the way. So if we have our helmet and all of our skills now turn into werewolf skills, and we're using lightning storm and we have this on, as long as we're casting lightning storm above 50 spirit, we're doing 25% increased damage. So just think about that. I think we can really stack the damage this season on Druid. It's looking really tasty. I'm really excited. Of the blurred beast, damage increased from 25 to 30% to 25 to 35%, so a smidge of a buff. Night Howlers. Previously, Blood Howl increases critical strike chance by 5 to 10%. In addition, Blood Howl also affects nearby companions and players for 3 seconds. No one used this, so let's see if they've added it to make it better. Blood Howl is now a shout skill, and so Blood Howl is not originally a shout skill. Only the bear roar, the bear ability is a shout, but you can use this aspect to make Blood Howl a shout skill. So it increases critical strike chance by 5 to 10%. In addition, Blood Howl also affects nearby companion player for 3 seconds. Okay, so basically this gives it the shout skill affix on it, or a status on the ability, and we'll see what really that does for it. I don't know if that does anything or not. We'll see. Raw Might. Now all shape-shifting skills contribute to the buff stacks. Okay. Damage increase from 35% to 45%. Ooh, this is big. Stun duration. That's big. That's a pretty good buff. I have to keep an eye on Raw Might. Shepherds. Now wrath skills also gain increased damage from companions. Okay. So that just means that it's not just core skills, but also wrath skills. So our hurricanes, etc., those are all now going to increase damage. Interesting. Mangled. Previous, when you are struck as a werebear, you have a 25 to 40% chance to gain 3 spirit. While in werebear form, that's what it was before. While in werebear form, you gain 10 to 20% every 8 seconds. That's not a big deal. I don't know. 8 seconds is a long time, but we'll see. We'll see if that's good or not. They may need to make that lower. I say every 4 seconds is even maybe 3. Every 3 seconds would be way better. Of Mending Stone, killing an enemy with any skill now replenishes the barrier as well as earth skills. So this is any skill, so you can more mix and match rather than it having to be a earth skill that replenishes the barrier. I think this was for the I can't think of the names right now, but your rock barrier, you'll be able to kill an enemy, and then you have to kill it with the barrier in order to get the barrier back, or it have to be an earth skill, etc. And now looks like any skill is going to be able to do that for you. This is good, especially with fortified buffs. Vocalize Empowerment, now equipable by both barbarians and druids. Previous, your shout skills generate 2 to 4 fury per second while active. Now your shout skills generate 5 to 10 primary resource. Since shout skills are pretty much between druid and barbarian, they're changing it to just primary resource. Whatever for you know, for them it's fury, for us it's you know, mana, basically. Spirit, I guess, is the proper word for it. Flesh Render, damage bonus increased from 10% to 15%. Here's some item changes. Debilitating Roar and Bloodhound deal damage to nearby poison enemies, increased by 15% for every 100 willpower you have, was the previous. Now, casting a defensive skill deals damage to nearby poison enemies. Interesting. These are like the shouts, so you can like cast shouts now and do damage to poison enemies around you. Increased by 15% for every 100 willpower you have. I like that. That's interesting. Very interesting. Not too sure how much damage that is. It is a 15% and 5% boost to this particular item. We'll have to do some testing. Waxing Gibbous, life on kill replaced with spirit on kill. I like that. Way better. Paragon, that's all for items. So all the other items they felt were pretty on par with Druid. I'm not too sure on that, but I'm sure we'll see. We'll see if any items really need some scaling. Tracker Glyph, poisoning damage effect duration increased from 30% to 40%. Bane Glyph, poison effect double damage chance increased. Shapeshifter Glyph, critical strike chance increased from 20 to 25%. Wilds Glyph, damage increased from 120. Wilds, if I remember correctly, is the companion one, to 130%. Inner Beast Legendary Node, after shapeshifting, your spirit costs were reduced by 10% for 5 seconds, up to 30%. This was nice. This was big. You kind of had to go Inner Beast. Now, after shapeshifting, your spirit costs are reduced by 5% for 10 seconds, up to 45% if you reach 10 stacks. This bonus resets and reduces the cooldown of your ultimate skill by 5 seconds. Wow. That is huge. So Inner Beast, this node is big for ultimate. If we're doing ultimate cooldown builds, even if you're not, why not grab this? You know, so you can use your ultimate more. This is big. Now, your spirit costs aren't going to be reduced as much, but once you get to these 10 stacks, it refreshes so you can keep going, and then it gives you cooldown skills by 5 seconds. So if you're able to really gain these stacks quickly, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, you can be getting ults back to back to back. And that's big because I am trying to do an ultimate, like one of the builds I'm trying to do is to get a storm ultimate where that storm is constantly running. We got the storm constantly going, pretty much zero cooldown on that storm. That's the ultimate lightning build, of course, with some lightning, obviously with some lightning strikes going on. This is Necro. I'm not a Necro player, but that's all the Druid stuff. Let's get the Sorcerer. Sorcerer, come out and play. But I'm excited. I'm excited about some of this Druid stuff. I thought there was not a lot of lightning stuff. I know they gave us the gloves last season. I know they made some changes to Lightning Storm last season, but I was hoping for some additional stuff there, but they didn't change. They felt like the lightning builds are in a good spot, so can't complain too much about that. And I was wanting to see that I was wanting to see if they were going to tone down the aspect with the companions for the extra damage, but doesn't look like they did. They did not touch it. All right, Sorcerer. Mastery skills are now also considered core skills, so a little bit more of a options there. Enchantments. Frost Nova enchantment. Chance for conjuration skills to cast a Frost Nova increased. Frostbolt chill amount increased from 15% to 18%. Nice. Flame Shield. Previously, Flame Shield automatically activates upon taking fatal damage. This effect can only happen once every 120 seconds. Flame Shield automatically activates after cumulatively losing 100% maximum life. It can only happen once every 30 seconds. Okay. No, it pops off after losing your basically 100% of what your maximum life is, and then it pops, and then can only happen once every 30 seconds. Okay. We've received feedback from players that cheat death mechanics are not desired. The Flame Shield enchantment has been changed to not react to fatal damage, but instead react to taking 100% of your health within a 30-second window. Okay. That works. That means it's just a nice, it's like a shield, kind of just, it just pops every so often. Every 30 seconds you got this shield popping off, you know, during a time that may be strenuous. Frozen Orb. Travel distance is now controllable. Damage increased by 20%. Enhanced Frozen Orb. Previous, when cast above 40 mana, Frozen Orb's explosion damage is increased by 45% against elites and 30% against all other enemies. Now, while healthy, the explosion of Frozen Orb deals 45% increased damage. With your barriers and everything else, you should be healthy the majority of the time. So that just means that Frozen Orb will be doing a lot of damage for sorcerers. Vulnerable chance increased from 30% to 40%, and duration increased from 2 to 3 seconds. That's the greater Frozen Orb node. Ice Armor. Enhanced Ice Armor. Mana regeneration increased. Nice, 25 to 30%. Shimmering Ice Armor. Previously, enemies you hit while Ice Armor was active had a 15% chance to become frozen. Now, while Ice Armor is active, you reduce its cooldown by 1 second for every 50 mana you spend. Okay, so you can kind of get that Ice Armor going more and more often now, instead of the frozen chance for frozen for to freeze enemies. Mystical Ice Armor. Damage against vulnerable enemies contributes 50% more to Ice Armor's barrier. While Ice Armor is active, you periodically chill close enemies for 20% and deal 50% increased damage to frozen enemies. So they're taking some of the power of the barrier for Ice Armor and giving you more damage if you're running it. So that's nice. Flame Shield. Enhance Flame Shield. Previous, Flame Shield grants 25% increased movement speed while active. Flame Shield has a 50% larger burn radius. Mystical Flame Shield. Interesting. You gain 25% mana cost reduction while Flame Shield is active. After Flame Shield ends, surrounding enemies are stunned for 3 seconds, and your next skill within 10 seconds is a guaranteed critical strike. Teleport. Enhanced Teleport. Teleport's cooldown is decreased by 0.5 seconds per enemy hit, up to 3 seconds. You gain 30% movement speed for 3 seconds after teleporting. Okay. For Mystical Teleport, which is a node for teleport, for 4 seconds after teleporting, crackling energy hits 2 additional enemies. Teleport deals 500% increased damage. It also forms a crackling energy for each enemy it hits, up to 3. Supreme Deep Freeze now applies vulnerable for 5 seconds after it ends, which is nice. Damage increased by 28% for ice shards. Ricochet chance increased by 10%. Nice. Hydra baseline maximum amount increased from 1 to 2. So you always will be putting out 2 Hydras at a time, which is pretty nice. Lightning Spear. Increased damage by 8%, which is nice for our Lightning Spear builds. Greater charge bolts. Damage increases well for the bolts that needed a buff. Incinerate. New functionality. Gain 50% baseline damage reduction while channeling. So they gave you some defenses while channeling this ability. Damage increased by 10%. Nice. Elemental attunement. Cooldown reset chance increased from 5 to 7%. Mana shield also increased from 7 to 8. So very small changes on some of these passives. Crowd controlled enemies now provide the damage bonus instead of immobilize. So it's just not specific to immobilize. A lot of these things are going to be changed to crowd control enemies. Conjuration mastery. Previous, you gain 1% increased damage for each active conjuration. Now you gain 1% increased damage, 1% movement speed, and 2% mana generation for each active conjuration. Really leaning into that conjuration build that they talked about so much. So that's going to be nice. You're going to be moving fast and getting that mana back as well. Convolutions, 2% buff to lucky hit chance on that. Shocking impact, damage increased by 100%. You love to see it. Elemental dominance, again of 1%. And then bounding conduit. Okay, let's see. Gain 15 to 30% movement speed for 3 seconds after teleporting. What is it now? Teleport's cooldown is reduced by 1 to 2.5 seconds after teleporting. Crackling energy hits 2 additional enemies for 5 seconds. Okay. Let's keep going. This is man. I mean, they have a lot. Let's look at conflagration. While channeling incinerate, your burning damage is increased by 25 to 40%. While channeling incinerate, your burning damage increased by 25 to 40%. Enemies hit by incinerate explode, burning all surrounding enemies for over 6 seconds. This effect occurs once per 3 seconds. Of splintering energy. Lightning Spear has a 35 to 50% chance to spawn an additional Lightning Spear when you cast it. Where's my buff at? Casting Lightning Spear always spawns an additional Lightning Spear and increases your damage with lightning skills by 10 to 25%. Shocking. I love it. I love it. Splintering energy. Pick that bad boy up. It's big. That's big. That's big for us lightning sorcerers. Shattered. Enemies no longer need to die while frozen to trigger the bonus damage. Damage increased from 25 to 40 to 30 to 45. Tau Rashes, Staff of Lam Eason, critical strike damage replaced with ranks of charged bolts. Nice. Tau Rashes Iridescent Loop, maximum stacks now capped at 4. So you can only have 4 of the Tau Rashes. All resistance variance increases from 8%, 3% to 10%, 4%. Nice. Flame Scar, Ember damage increased by 25%. Staff of Endless Rage damage bonus increased from 20 to 40 to 40 to 60. And Asu's Heirloom. Asu's. Evade grants movement speed of fixed duration increase from 2 to 3 seconds. Paragon Tactician Glyph, new functionality now lasts 4 seconds longer for each defensive skill not on your action bar. And then Winter Glyph, cold damage increase and maximum raise from 15% to 18%. Quick loot updates here. All items dropped in World Tier 3 will now be sacred. All items dropped in World Tier 4 will now be ancestral. Item rarity drop chances have been adjusted after level 28. The majority of gear drop that is not legendary will be rare. Additionally, chances to drop legendary items now scares more after reaching level 50. Item power now increases every 5 levels after 50 of a linear scale. And this is some elixir updates. Again, a little bit increase of experiences, resistances, etc. Just a smidge increase just to help people out. Here are some new elixirs. After killing an enemy, holy bolts fire from the corpse of that enemy. Experience, so that's cool. Elixir momentum. After killing an enemy, increase movement speed. This effect stacks up to 15 times. So you can really, wow. You can get a 45% movement speed on this bad boy for the elixir. People are going to be buying this elixir momentum. Everyone's just going to be using this. User interface and user experience. I don't see anything crazy here. Nightmare Dungeon rotation here. And yeah, a lot of small things, huge amount of bug fixes for gameplay Druids. Let's see here. Fix an issue where Hurricane was not displaying decimal values for reservation when affected by the Endless Tempest passive. Fix an issue where the damage bonus from the aspect of retaliation bonus could apply twice. Fix an issue where Storm Strike and Claw could attack in place instead of attempting to path the player. Interesting. Fix an issue where Bloodhowl would not heal the player or properly regenerate spirit when equipped with the Night Howler's aspect. Fix an issue where the fortify values generated by Safeguard was using base life instead of maximum life. Interesting. Fix an issue where the multiplicative damage from the Wild's Glyph did apply for passive attacks from companions. Nothing crazy here. I don't see anything with our lightning build, so that's why I kind of stopped reading. I was making sure nothing was wrong with my lightning. All right, that is pretty much it. So, overview of the Druid changes. They look pretty nice. Definitely adding some spirit, resource gain. A lot of things. They're changing things up a little bit. This season does seem like it's going to be very, very specific to companions. Obviously, they just made that huge companion change, so they really want to kind of lean into that. I get it, but you know that we are going to be pretty much running our lightning builds, probably doing our great staff of the crone. Probably doing that build first to kind of level up and get through, and then we will switch over to figuring out the best lightning build, which could be the companions this season. As you know, that they do have the aspect of the werewolf, where they turn into these werewolves, and they do pretty much I call it the Rikiri. It's not the Rikiri, but I can't think of the name right now. Sasuke's attack. I can't believe I can't think of the name. Chidori. Boom. I knew it. I'm definitely gonna do some editing magic right now. So this is when just like they kind of do like a Sasuke Chidori thing, and it's cool, it's awesome, but is it viable? And we'll see with the new attributes, everything changing. We'll see if that works out. But this has been very long patch notes. I'm gonna have timestamps down below so that you guys can jump to wherever you want to be or wherever you want to get to. You don't have to go through it all, but if you want to, hope you enjoyed everything we talked about. I'll be streaming Friday night, playing some Destiny 2. And then hopefully eventually we'll be jumping back into Diablo as soon as it comes out in a week and a half or so. All right, y'all. Remember to always follow your ninja way, and I will see you guys. Peace.